What's up, team? We are going to talk about, ooh, hey, look. Not specifically my muscles, but the fact that I can finally flex and there are some muscles because we are lifting for runners. Coach Caitlin is going to join me and we are going to answer a bunch of your questions around heavy lifting for runners. We will tell you a little bit more about the 12-week program that she also has available. So as soon as I see her request to join, we'll get started with that. Feel free to drop your questions. Again, today I'm not answering every run question, but we are going to talk about strength training for runners. So certainly drop your questions as you have them, and we will do our best to answer everything. So for those of you who have not met her, this is Coach Caitlin. She has actually been coaching on my team closing in on 5 years, I feel like.
It's a long time.
Yeah. So tell them a little bit more about your training experience around strength training and that kind of stuff.
All right. So I started as a personal trainer, group fitness instructor about 5-6 years ago now. Have been doing that, have been running for much longer, about, like 15, 16 years now. So kind of made the transition in college to actually pick up some weights during the time while I trained for my second marathon. Second marathon went a heck of a lot better than the first marathon thanks to weight training and, less days running and more days in the gym. So I was running probably 6 days a week on my first marathon, and then second marathon more like 4, 5 maybe, but strength training 2 to 3 times a week. So after college, got into the whole personal training, group fitness, all that good stuff. Continued on with my own running and strength training journey. Fell into Run to the Finish about a year after that. Started taking on some runners there and kind of was the go-to, if you will, for strength training, and was just really confident and really, felt like I was knowledgeable enough in the source, given my own personal experience, and then just training clients one-on-one with how it increases our running economy and efficiency. So kind of became the one to go to with the questions for strength training. How does it help? How can you do it with marathon training? And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to create a program. I've looked at some others on the market just to kind of see what they were offering, what they were lacking, what I kind of found worked best, and came up with this heavy lifting for runners program.
Yeah, so I love this because obviously, you guys know, research, research, research. I guinea pig things on myself. But for me, it was really important when we were starting to talk about heavier weights and your form matters so much. That's why I didn't create it, because Caitlin is physically in the gym with people. She is watching their form, so she knows how to give you the right cues to make everything actually work. Because if you're just lifting heavy stuff but you're doing it all wrong, you're either going to end up injured or you're not actually getting the right muscle recruitment. So for me, that's why it was really important to have her kind of take a look at this. I know the first question I saw is one we get a lot, which is in terms of how many days to strength train. And so generally, like Caitlin said, it's 2 to 3 days a week. And a lot of that can depend on your life and your schedule and your body and your time. But when it comes to heavy lifting, how should people think about that in terms of like looking at their week of training?
So first and foremost, the ideal number that I've created is 3 days a week. So if you can manage 3 days a week, that would be awesome. I would structure it in a way that keeps hard days hard, easy days easy, if you can go along with that as well. So I like to do leg day on the same day as a strength, or as a speed workout day, excuse me. Or if I don't have the time to be able to double up, maybe do one in the morning, one at night, I would go more for speed training one day, followed by legs the next day. And then the day after that would probably just do an easy recovery run. and then upper body or a full body before a long run day, because I definitely wouldn't recommend doing a hard, heavy leg day before a 20-mile run. But
yeah. And for folks who are doubling up, because we're talking about heavy strength training, this is the time where ideally we really do want you to separate them. So
yes.
we know from the data that if you can have a minimum of 6 hours between that hard run and that heavy lift, you're now getting the maximum benefit out of both workouts, which makes sense. Your muscles need a little bit of recovery time before you ask them to go pick up really heavy stuff. Sometimes when we're doing the body weight or some of the lighter weights, if you just need for time to smash them together, we get it done. But with the heavier stuff, really trying to find that space if you can.
Yeah.
I think that's
yeah, go ahead. No.
Okay. I think that's super important. The other question that we often get in terms of lifting is sort of, well, how long do I need to lift? And again, we're focused right now on heavy lifting. So how long do you think a session needs to be, and why does it kind of end up being that amount of time?
I kind of say around the 45-minute mark. Anything more than that, you don't really need. If you're going to be in there, 45 minutes is efficient. You can get in and out. 45 minutes also allows for adequate rest time in between your sets. So my program is about a minute of rest in between everything. So if you're doing a set of squats and it's 4 sets of 8 squats, you're taking a minute to recover in between, a minute or 2 to fully recover before you can hit that next set of squats hard and heavy again. A lot of times, we see people in the gym cranking out just a half hour of like HIIT training. This isn't necessarily HIIT training. This is taking the time to lift heavy, recover in between sets, and then move on from there. So I like to allocate about 45 minutes, maybe 50 with that added warm up, but really nothing more than an hour, and a little bit longer than that half hour window, just again, so that you can account for that rest time in there.
And I think that's really important, because a lot of the times when we're giving a lot of our runners who are not doing super heavy stuff strength sessions, maybe they are 20 to 30 minutes. And if that's where you're at, that's awesome. But I do think with the heavy lifting, the piece that we tend to overlook is the rest. And I will admit that's probably my worst trait when I'm in the gym, is I don't like to pause in between. But then I am shortchanging the work, right? By not taking rest.
Absolutely. Because then if you're trying to lift your max squat weight, your form is going to start to fade by the end of it, and you're going to feel something in your back or your knees, and it's just not going to be efficient for you.
Yeah, makes sense. So I know one of the big questions people have is sort of, okay, so I am strength training, but maybe most of what I'm doing is 12 reps, 15 reps. Why do I need to actually spend time doing this heavier stuff? It makes me sore. That's usually right? That's our concern. It makes us sore.
Yes, that is a concern. It makes you sore, but it is definitely beneficial. You're going to increase the muscle on your legs. It makes you sore, but then you're giving yourself more rest time in between sessions. Maybe you're doing those 12 to 15 rep ranges multiple times throughout the week, more like 4 or 5, whatever you're doing with that. But going heavier rips your muscles apart more, which sounds scary, but does a little bit more damage to the muscles, but then they grow back stronger. They grow back more efficient. And then when you're out there running a day or 2 later, you notice that things are turning over much better because your glutes are now stronger from all of the deadlifts that you've been doing. You're no longer just using your quads when you try to run. So by going heavier, you're really waking up those muscles, provided, like you said, again, that you're doing it right, which is why hopefully the exercise videos that I've created along with this plan kind of help make sure that we're doing the right form. But making sure that you're hitting those muscles hard and heavy is going to get them stronger, going to get them firing more efficiently, and going to get you running longer, stronger, minimal pain in the long run. So first couple sessions, yes, are always going to be hard and challenging. Your body's going to be like, whoa, what's going on? But such is the case with anything. When you get back into running after a long break, your legs feel it, your body feels it. But by continuing on and by really taking the time to dedicate to it, stick to that routine, things are going to feel much better over time.
Well, and I think too, it's also sort of like you mentioned, you went from maybe running 6, 7 days a week to like now you
Right.
can run 4 and still have a marathon PR. So we love our running, but if you know that this little bit of time, especially as life gets busier and busier and busier, like, and that 45 minutes is probably less time than any run you were going to plan, but has more benefit, you can kind of start to play that game in your head of like, okay, cost benefit ratio, like this is really going to pay off. Do you recommend if someone is already into marathon training that they should start this, or should they wait because they're already in marathon training cycle, do it as part of base building, and then go into marathon training?
So I would ask first, how far into marathon training are you? Have you just started? Are you a couple weeks in? I know a lot of runners right now are probably gearing up for Chicago or New York, maybe Berlin thrown in there. So what, you're nearing peak week? I would say maybe hold off a little bit, or stick to what you've been doing at this point. Stick to what you've been doing, or take the first couple of weeks on this plan. I do have that 4-week kind of build with stabilization and endurance. Yes, there's heavy weights built in there, but it's a little bit more focused on single-sided things. So like single leg deadlifts, single arm chest presses or bicep curls, to really focus on that core. So you could start the program, skip ahead to the taper because there is a section in there towards the end on tapering, and then restart after you're done recovering from your marathon to go through the full plan, really start to pick up those heavy weights, really start to push that 1 rep max, and see much more you can do. But I would say if you're going to start it now, yes, you could, but know that you should probably cut to the taper quicker than the plan calls for.
That makes sense. And if you are someone in marathon training who starts it right now you have access to Coach Caitlin as your training. That won't be the case forever with this program. So
right.
You can ask those questions, figure out exactly how it's working in your training. But that's a really good tip, because I don't think a lot of us would have thought of, oh, I can sort of do this and jump ahead. But you also brought up another great point, which I don't think we think about our run training in terms of like, it's going to gradually build up. I have a peak, taper, and I race. But strength training, we often just kind of keep repeating the same thing forever. So talk about why with heavy lifting, you've got 3 phases.
So I have the 3 phases. The first one, each is about 4 weeks. The first phase is heavy lifting. Yes, get you comfortable in the gym, get you comfortable picking up those heavy weights. It's also a little bit more balance and stability focused. So I throw in some, like I was just saying, single leg, single arm movements, also some work with a stability ball or a Swiss ball, to focus in on that core, make sure that one side isn't taken over for the other. A lot of times we see muscle imbalances, and by not working single-sided moves, we're allowing the stronger side to keep being the stronger side. And then as you continue to lift heavy, that stronger side is still taking over. So hopefully in this first phase, you kind of nix the muscle imbalances, make them smaller, work on that balance and stability, just like you would getting into a marathon build-up. You're starting to ramp up the mileage, ramp up the intensity. That second phase is more about, you're comfortable picking up those heavy weights. You're comfortable doing it at home, in the gym, wherever it is. And this is the time where you're going to be like, you know what? I've been at 15 pounds for my bicep curl for a while. Let's see if I can bump it up to 18 or 20. See how many reps I can get there. So this is getting you comfortable pushing to a new limit. So pushing to that, can I run 20 miles? I don't know. We're going to find out. Same mentality that you would with marathon training. And then you get those last couple of weeks to build up even more power. You got your peak week, maybe you hit a 21 or a 22 miler, or maybe you max out at 20 and it's your third one or whatever it is, but it's your highest mileage week. This would be the same way that it would be your highest intensity week with that strength training. So the last phase is more about power and tapering, or just power. So that's when you're going to find how reactive you can become as a runner. It's going to be the time where you can figure out just how reactive your body is to the strength training that you've been doing beforehand. And just how that heavy lifting is going to help you, like I said, power up, get you to that race day, get you to that starting line for your best time.
Finishes the 12-week program, do you recommend taking off like a certain number of weeks and then starting again? Because I know ideally you will repeat it because you'll keep watching yourself get stronger, but do you take off a little bit of time, like a recovery period?
You could take off a little bit of time, and then once you get back in, start with the 2-week body weight taper that I include in there at the end. Start with that, and then kind of go back to the beginning of the plan. You could even do the first week of the plan twice when you're getting back into it. First week, maybe start a little bit lighter than you normally think you would, get your body used to picking up a weight again, repeat it the next week, and then start. So it would essentially be like a 13-week plan at that point.
Okay. So our ideal in this scenario is 3 times a week when we're talking about heavy weights and really getting the max benefit out of it. Annie had also asked about more or less masters runners, and so really want to touch on that. 1,000,000%, if you are one of our female athletes who is in peri or menopause, heavy weights are for you. So Dr. Stacy Sims has done a lot of really great research and really helped push this forward. But there are a couple of big benefits, particularly as females and particularly as our hormones are declining, in terms of being able to maintain weight loss, partially because we lose muscle so easily, but also because it teaches our body how to use carbohydrates more effectively. So you do that heavy lift, you eat appropriately, and it actually puts it into your muscles. So it uses carbohydrates correctly. So yes, please do not think age is in any way a reason not to do it. It's actually more of a reason to do it, because we lose that power and that muscle. Let's see. I had another question, but then I got myself on that tangent because it was important. Oh yes, this was the question. So I think for a lot of people that hear heavy lifting, it makes them a little nervous. Where should someone be to consider that they're ready to start a heavy lifting program like yours?
So I would say definitely have a little bit of experience picking up those dumbbells, maybe some barbells in the gym or at home, wherever you have your equipment. Like you had mentioned, the runner who has been doing maybe 4 sessions a week at that 12 to 15 rep max range, perfect person to start this, because then you're going to drop it down to 6 to 8 reps, maybe 10, and you're going to already have that experience and that knowledge with weights to then be like, okay, I was doing 10 pounds for that, for the 15 reps. Let's try maybe 15 pounds. And again, it's kind of a trial and error. The last 2 to 3 reps of every, longer set. So from that 6 to 8 rep range, the last 2 reps that you do in your set should be challenging. They should, you should be a little fatigued by the end. Your form should still be 100%. Those should be the last 2 reps that you can do before your form goes. Then you take your break and then you get back to it. So that's a way to kind of figure it out, is to make sure that the last 2 are appropriately challenging. That last one, you're like, okay, the next one would be, I'd be swinging the weights, so.
Sam, yes. So this is the Heavy Lifting for Runners program. So it's a full course. So like she said, she has it divided out into your phases. Every week has a PDF with these are your workouts for the week. And then there is a massive library of demonstrations. So for any exercise where you're not 100% on form, or exactly how it should look, you can find it in that list and be able to see exactly what it should look like. Future potential for follow along videos, but realistically, we thought a lot of you would be taking this into the gym, and so probably not using a video, but instead kind of wanting to read and check off exactly what you need to be doing from something you could print out if you want, or just open on your phone.
Yes. And along with the exercise library, so there's the videos with a quick little voiceover on each of the videos, and then there are written descriptions to go along with all of those as well. So you'll get a big list of detail per every exercise, and then you'll be able to see a quick video of me doing it with some voiceover cues to go along. So you'll get lots of information.
Yeah. And like we said, since at this point you have access to her during this program, also you're getting extra questions answered if they're coming up. And obviously those are things we'll build in if we keep seeing a lot of those questions. But a time to get to take advantage of that. Jay Fish. So I love heavy lifting, but I work out at home and I don't have a squat rack. I find I can't really get close to a 1 rep max because I can't get a barbell up for a back or front squat. So I think actually that hits on a couple of things. So one, kind of being able to do it at home, but also any tips you might have around if you don't have that, barbell, so you're trying to use dumbbells, can you get as heavy?
Yes, you can. So for that, I would sub if you have a barbell, go as heavy as you can and load it. Find what rep range you'd be able to squat. It wouldn't necessarily be your 1 rep max, so maybe subbing the 1 rep max for another set of 6 or whatever it is that you can lift at that heaviest weight and bring it up to your back. Swap the 1 rep max for another set of that 4 to 6 rep range. So kind of eliminating it that way. Or if you do have dumbbells, you can rack them up and do front squats instead, or a goblet squat, something really heavy. I did also see his comment that said, should I just suck it up and buy a squat rack? My answer to that would always be yes, because I want one too. But there are ways to work around it. You can add in just another set of whatever the max weight is that you can safely bring up, and do a couple more reps of it, if that makes sense.
For all of the movements that are listed as barbell, they can also be done as dumbbell.
Okay. Correct.
Is there
they can also be done as dumbbells, kettlebells, whatever you got handy.
Perfect. Is there a minimum sort of starting amount of weight that people should have access to really get into an actual program where they're going to lift heavier?
So, yes and no, just because everybody is at a different range. But I would always say my suggestions are start with something that you can overhead press is a good weight, something that you can safely overhead press, another thing that you can squat or deadlift. So start with that weight for each of those. Maybe it's a 20-pound for the overhead and it's a 40-pound for the squat. Start with those and then see if you can build up your exercise equipment from there. So
okay.
Maybe in that range. Also, like 10s would be good for dumbbells. So I would say something maybe 10 to 12 and greater.
Okay. And I think for a lot of you, just to also be very clear, like I don't lift anywhere near as heavy as Caitlin, but I have been working to lift heavier. And so, yeah, for me, for a while, 15 was like the max I could do for a lot of stuff. So now I'm using some 20s, but that's also because I stopped doing 15 reps and I started doing less reps. So when you're thinking about those weights, remember you're not doing as many reps. Also, if it's an option, the adjustable dumbbells, so I have the NordicTrack ones, the Bowflex ones, any of those are going to take up a lot less space.
That was going to be my suggestion too.
Yeah, give you a lot more options. And there are a number of even barbell ones that can be at home now and not need to take up so much space too. So if you're kind of thinking of like Is there one thing that's going to make this easier? Those are also some really good options. Okay, let's see if there's any final questions sometimes. Annie, do you take a cheat sheet sometimes into the gym? So if you mean just kind of printing out the workouts, 100%. But let me know if that's what you mean.
Yeah.
Oh, do not feel self-conscious about that. So that was your next comment. Heck no. Everybody there is either like on their phone looking at what they're supposed to do, or they do have a printout or whatever. So no. Or if you have your phone with you and you need to go look at one of those video demonstrations, no.
Please do. Yeah.
Yeah. This is your time for you.
Nobody's
Don't worry
looking
about
at
it.
you.
Yeah.
And if they are, it's to see if they're looking at you, it's to see if you're looking at them. So to boost their ego.
Or maybe they're looking to see if something is open or whatever. But I do think the gym can be intimidating. But for the most part, the majority of people there are really there to do what they're doing. And so they're actually not paying attention to you. Like my mom always told me, you think about yourself more than anyone is thinking about you. Maybe things you say only children, I don't know. But I think in the gym, that mindset really helps. Like they're looking in the mirror at their form and doing their thing.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay. Let's see. Thoughts on combining starting a strength training program with running. So great question. If you haven't been doing strength training, I'm probably not the person that's going to say start with this heavy lifting program. Because I think kind of like we said at the beginning, we want you to start at the point where you are and then build up to it, but not hold yourself back from doing heavy lifting. So just getting yourself in the routine of making it part of your week every week. So whether that means you start with body weight, and then you start to pick up some light dumbbells, and then you move into heavy. And it doesn't have to be like a crazy amount of time to get there. But I think you just have to start with making it a consistent part of the routine so then your body can adapt.
Mm-hmm.
If someone hasn't been lifting, do you have sort of a thought on like how long they should maybe take before they actually start, like, because your program is just a more formalized way of strength training than I think a lot of people do. They do a Peloton that's kind of a quick and snappy, but it's not a take your rest between things because we're lifting heavy. So thoughts on like, you know, how long maybe someone should have been kind of strength training before trying it?
At least have an understanding of the basic moves. I would say master the push and pull of upper and lower body. So once you feel like your body weight squat is good, the form is awesome, you got that going for you, great. Good spot to start adding in weights for that one. Deadlift, same thing. Once you feel like you have that hinge pattern down, you feel like you're actually using your butt, using your hamstrings, all those muscles and not your lower back, great. Add a little bit of weight. See if that helps. Same thing with like a push-up. Or even just like a pull-up. You could do a dead hang. That's the first place to start, is just getting your body comfortable hanging from that bar. But mastering the push-up, the squat, and the hinge are going to be your three biggest tips for when you feel like you're ready to start adding in weights.
Yeah, that's a great, great tip. Jay Fish, if you are working with one of our coaches one-on-one, yes, you will have access to heavy lifting. So it's just a matter of if your coach feels like that's where you're at and programming it in. It is one of the few courses not available inside Virtual Run Club. It is its own standalone thing because I think it deserves it. So not available inside there, but the other lighter weight strength programs are. Okay.
Yes.
If there's any final questions. Okay, cool. I think we have hit on all the big questions. So I will drop the link again, but it's also in both of our bios. So if you're looking for the heavyweight program for runners, you can check it out, click on that, get more details about it, but feel free to ask us questions as well. For sure, we want everyone to feel comfortable with it. We're excited about it. Any other final thoughts you want to kind of share with anybody on it?
If you've been thinking about it, don't be scared. Let's do it. There's, everybody has a different level of heavy. It doesn't mean that you need to be, CrossFitting in the gym, squatting 200 pounds if you can't lift 10. Everybody has a different definition of heavy. Let's try to see if we can push it to a new level for you.
Yeah, I think that's the big key, is everyone's definition of heavy is different. So she will help you figure out what heavy is for you and then see the progress, man. I'm excited. So yeah. We will leave it at that for today, gang. But like we said, we're both available if you have questions, because we want to make sure we answer them. And yeah, everyone have a great rest of your day.
See ya. Thank you.